Welcome to the Meetings Podcast, the meeting organizer's podcast source for what's new in the meetings and events industry. Meetings Podcast is a conversation with a variety of voices that looks at events, meetings, and media. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events.
Hey, podcast listeners. This is Mike. Thank you for tuning in once again. I wanted to thank IMEX America for sponsoring. I also wanted to thank a new sponsor, thepodcastguys.com, and they're doing podcasting for events. So think about a year-round show for your event, gearing up when it gets close to your event, at your event, and then after your event, year-round, that you can engage, educate, and entertain your specific niche or your space that you're in. Check out thepodcastguys.com and they will set it all up for you. They take care of all the technical and the creative around your event. So you don't have to, because we know you don't have time to do that. So let's get into the show. And thank you so much again for listening. And I'll be back at the end to wrap it all up. Okay, welcome back to the Meetings Podcast. This is Mike McAllen from Grass Shack Events and Media, and today we have Sam Smith, Samuel J. Smith.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good. You're not the singer. You are the interactive meeting technologist.
That's right. But I don't know if I told you this, but the singer and I have the same birthday.
How weird.
Yeah, I could be his dad though. Legally.
Could.
Yes, legally. It's not true. I didn't make it to England for a few more years, so it's not possible. Or it's not me, but technically possible.
Well, wait a minute. You're not that old. How could that be?
Well,
did you start really early when you were?
No, he was born, I think, in 93.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was 20 then, or 19. I was 19 then. So technically, it's possible.
It is. It really is. Okay, so let me read your bio for people who don't know you. Sam runs an audience engagement company called Interactive Meeting Technology. They created Socialpoint Audience Engagement platform. That was recognized as one of the top 10 new technology innovations in the meetings industry in 2015. Sam has been recognized by BizBash, ISES. Is that right? ISES? Do we still say ISES for them?
International Special Events Society.
Yeah, it's not the other ISIS.
Right.
MPI, because we don't want people to think you were recognized by ISIS.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. MPI, and RSVP magazine, and IBTM World for innovation in the meetings and event industry. Sam used to be on the podcast. We used to do a bunch of them together a long time ago. What was that? We used to do them. I should have looked that up. We did those fun technology ones.
Yeah, I remember. I think one of the podcasts we did with one of the heads of George P. Johnson. That was personally one of my favorite interviews I've ever done in my whole career. It was so much fun.
That was cool. That was a fun time. Yeah, where were we? We were somewhere doing that.
We were in Vancouver, I think.
Oh yeah, how fun was that? I love Vancouver. All right, so Sam, thank you for speaking with me. Let's get this started. Give us your favorite quote.
Yep. So the quote that I've been, that's kind of running through my mind is one by Brad Stevens. He's the coach of the Celtics, the Boston Celtics, and he used to coach Butler University men's basketball team. And he said, when your margin for error is small, details matter. And I think that's a super important quote to me, because as a small company, those things matter, but also as an experiential company and one that does audience engagement, you get one shot at it. And so you don't get forgiven with your technology. If it's supposed to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:00, and it works at 7:55 and 8:05, but not at 8:00, that doesn't count in our world, the world I live in. And so for me, I like to use that quote and to talk to our team about it, because it just reinforces for all of us that that margin for error is so small, and that all these little details are super important.
Very cool. So, can you explain how kind of the career path that led you to us right now?
And by us, I mean the
all the people that are listening to this, the thousands and thousands of people, tell us how you got into this business of the events business.
Yeah, sure. So 10 years ago, my wife and I moved to Europe, and we lived in Lausanne, Switzerland. And I started working I met some of the folks that started a mobile app company called SpotMe. And at the time, that was 2006. At the time, people didn't have smartphones or those things, but they actually had created the technology to make a device. So I got into the industry working there, and it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. But what I really learned, and that really led us to where we are today, is that there's so many different ways to engage audiences, right? And a lot of folks spend most of their time trying to figure out how to create a one-size-fits-all experience in one room. But we have so many spaces and hallways and social events and street teams and all these different ways. Home tours, we do home tours sometimes. All these different ways to connect, to do audience engagement. And so for me, the big opportunity that really led to where we are today, to interactive meeting technology and to the Socialpoint, is that there's so many ways. And so people should have the freedom to choose the best way to engage their attendees. And so I'm very passionate about that. And so that's why I'm here today.
Very cool. And what do you mean home tours?
So, in some cities they have, they're like, hey, go to these 25 homes. Usually it's in the fall or maybe in the summer. Here's the luxury home. Here's the new homes. Here's the remodeled homes, whatever it is. What we'll do check-in stations in those homes. So then people can kind of check in. Maybe they're going to download some documents from the builder. Maybe they're going to get entered into a prize drawing, but it helps people capture leads, collect some additional data that they can then use as marketing follow-ups down the road.
Very cool. Very cool. What's been the biggest challenge you've had with Socialpoint, I guess? Or what's the biggest challenge you've encountered so far?
That's a good question. They seem to change every day, these challenges. But I would say that if I go back to 5 years ago, in 6 years ago, 2010, 2009, people, if you talk to them about audience engagement, they were just not interested, and mostly because they had other problems they were trying to fight. And so it was a whole bunch of education about what it's about, how to use technology in your events, and it seemed like an uphill battle. Fast forward to today, the conversation that we have with people is a lot different. They know they want to do something different. They don't know what that is. A lot of people are still stuck on, it's our mobile app and it's polling. They feel like those are the choices. And today there's a lot of people that are very upset with their mobile app because they don't believe it's delivering on the audience engagement experience they want. Or it's not the right fit for the audience engagement experience they want to create, right? If they're going to do it in a hallway or whatever, that's not something to download, right? And so it's just not the right tool always. And so for us, those conversations we have with people are a lot different. They're a lot more open to it, but they're also open to there's different ways to do things. And I think that's really super refreshing, but that's part of social media, mobile technology, and how those technologies have changed how people perceive the world. And I think that's been a great help to us.
So tell me when did you know that you had made the right decision in doing this? Because I've known you a long time, and this has been Socialpoint has been a good thing for you, I think.
Yep.
Because it's like you're very happy these days, whereas before you didn't seem as happy as you are now. No, seriously, it just seems like you're a more together person. Not that you weren't then, but I'm just saying it seems like, and I think we all kind of go through that. But how did you know that? Was there a moment that you knew that this decision was the right thing to do?
I think there's always a moment, right, where you know it's the right thing, and some of those. A lot of it comes from your customers, right? When you create the right experience for them and they're thankful because maybe they took a leap of faith. They weren't sure how it was going to work out, but they knew that you could deliver that. And I think there was some opportunity. When I first moved back to the United States in 2010, we did a huge meeting where we actually blew up the whole meeting and started it over and did so many different things. And that experience and what happened from that validated what we were doing. And there was really cool. In 2011, I think, 3 of the projects we did out of 3 projects, 3 were nominated for awards. 2 became case studies that MPI teaches, right, of our projects. And they weren't all because we didn't really know they were going to become a case study or that they were going to do it. We just were doing the right thing, right? How do you create this engagement experience? And they worked. And that one was a hybrid meeting. One was another blow up a conference kind of deal. And, that's good. But what we also found is that, back to the challenges, not everyone wanted to do all of that. They're like, that's awesome. You did that for that company. We're not doing it. And so when you have those kinds of situations, I think, that makes it a little tough. And, but that you're doing the right thing. So you carry forward. And what Socialpoint does for us today in that regard is it allows us to very easily create those experiences that people want without them having to blow up their meeting or without them having to spend a lot of time and money, right? I mean, that's one of my favorite things is we can democratize things where it doesn't have to be the rich, big budget people that can have really good experiences. We can bring that down to that 50-person meeting that doesn't have huge technology budgets or budgets, period, right? They're just trying to get by. And that's to me is the most rewarding thing because we can change the way people produce events, design them and create these experiences. And if we do that, people are going to take more away from those events. And I think that that's the coolest thing of all. And that's why we get out of bed in the morning or why I get out of bed in the morning. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So now that you said that, so you take us through the process from the sales, to actually doing the event. I mean, like do a quick little, so someone understands what Socialpoint does. Yep. So let's say Mike calls Sam and says, I need you to come work.
Sure. So we have an audience engagement platform. And so what that really means is that we can create 10 or 15 different types of audience engagement experiences, whether that's inside a mobile app, on SMS, through social media, on a tablet, on a touch screen, on visual screens, video walls, those things. And so what you would call us about, you would either say, hey, we want to improve our meeting, and we'd give you a broad overview of about 20 things and ask you to say, what do you like, don't like, right? And there's going to be stuff you don't like. And we know that, so we'll show you something, and if you don't like it, let's move on to the next thing, right? There's no reason. We want to help you create the right experience for your event. And so in doing that, you'll pick something you want. So a lot of folks today, a lot of marketers, we do a lot of B2B marketers, and they have trade show booth problems, right? What do we do in our trade show booth? And so a lot of those outcomes revolve around touch screens and trivia games. And so they'll tell us about their problems and we'll help them with a game. And then after they've decided on that, usually they'll decide to do a game for multiple events, right? So they're going to do multiple trade show booth executions, series of 5 events, 10 events, 20 events, whatever they're doing. And we'll build the configuration for them that they can then reuse at all these events. And we help them deploy it so that we don't send people on site anymore, right? I got out of that. And mostly because we built our software so that it's not necessary. We can do it all remote. And it's super simple with the people on site, the event techs. Just get a little PIN code and a URL, and then they have a map of this goes on this screen, this goes on that screen, this goes on this tablet, this goes on this touch screen, so on and so forth. And then it's all there. And from behind the scenes, you can manage it all remotely now. So change the content, change what happens, all that stuff. And so in doing that, we'll train people, prepare them. So when they go on site, they have a real peace of mind around, hey, this stuff's going to work. These guys have done it before, but they're also one phone call away. And for people that really need us on site, we go there. But some of the stuff we do, we don't need to be there. It's just a non-value-added cost. I'd rather see them spend more money on creative directors and doing more creative things than logistics for labor on site, right? I mean, that to me, even though that's money to us, it's not useful money. Travel, right? That's more money should go into creativity and designing a better event. So they'll pick those tools, and then they'll have their event on site. And then they will, usually at the end, we'll get there'll be a follow-up with that. And we'll talk about what went right, what went wrong. And sometimes technology success is about people, process, and technology. So sometimes if it succeeds or if it fails, it's equally the people and the process that are a part of that process, as well as the technology. If you put up some technology in a booth and you don't put staff there, or they, they don't have time allocated for it. Well, it's not going to get as much use, right, as if they plan around that. So we have we also do private social media hubs. This is another quick thing, private social media hub. So for national sales meetings at pharmaceutical companies, they want to do a social media hub, but it can't be no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So build these experiences, but it's around how do we transform our company? How do we get ideas for using this new blah, 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 whatever it is? And then we'll have touch screens and just build a big visual space for them. And those things work really well. But we had one team came back today, and in my opinion, the client was happy. Client was delighted. But I think that, they cut out some of the time for people to go in that space, and they missed out on an opportunity, right? So for their point of view, that was a success, and they have other events, and we'll do that again. But we'll talk to them about the people and process. So we care about all those things because long term, those are things that transform events. It's not just only the technology, but also the people and process. Anyway, so we try to advise people there, and then we'll do we'll start that process over again. And for some folks, it's start small, and they add more things. Some people want to do a whole bunch of stuff, and they just want to stamp that out and do that at several events. But we also have clients that, one of our clients is a hearing company, and they've got galas, they've got trade show booths, they've got customer events, they've got sales meetings, and every one of those events requires different tools that we provide. So in some, they just want a social display for the gala to tweet that Dikembe Mutombo was there, or whomever was there. But in another one, and to show photos on the screen, right? In another event, what they want is they want to have people go to different stations. They want them to check in, or in another space, they might want a game or something. And so we'll do different things based on what their needs are. But that's my favorite part about what we do, right? We can provide the experience for all the events in their portfolio and can help them create the right experience for the right for each event, not just, oh, here's our thing, take it, right? Which I feel a lot of technology companies might only just be able to do one thing. So does that help with the process?
Yeah, very much so.
A lot of advice.
When you say 10 to 15 different things, like are most people doing one or two of them is there a beginning? Like, is there an intro to Socialpoint that say this is how we?
It depends on where you come from, right? So we have a lot of B2B people that come in with trade show problems, right? And they have trade show booth problems. And so they need to capture leads, they need to survey customers, and then they need to teach them about their products and services. And they feel like they put a lot of emphasis on the booth staff to do those jobs. And as you know, at a trade show, after 2 to 3 days, those people are out of energy, right? They just don't have an unlimited supply of happiness to go around. And so like our trivia platform really solves that for them. And that creates a great opportunity because they can have meaningful conversations with customers, but at the same time, they're still capturing leads, collecting data, and teaching people around a game while the people think they're trying to win the game, which they are. But there's a lot of knowledge that's transferred in there and a lot of information that's shared. And so we find that as for B2B marketers that are in the trade show space as a very healthy start. It really depends on the problems people have. We have some people come to us because their event mobile app needs to be upgraded, and maybe they're unsatisfied with the package they bought, but they're unwilling. And some people are just there's going to be a shakeout in mobile apps because some people are so frustrated with their vendors that they need more services, but they don't want it from that vendor because they're unsatisfied. So they'll actually come to us to upgrade pieces, and some of our technology will embed into event apps. And some people say, yep, let's do that. And we've had other clients where they say, screw it. We've got that. We have to use it because it's paid for, but actually create something separate and keep it separate. And they do that because they're frustrated. And that's to me is a big negative sign in the industry, right? That you've got these people are using technology, they're investing in it, but they don't feel like they're getting the results they're looking for. But, the mobile app pitches are different than what we do. Some of the pitches are, hey, we'll help you with some messaging. We'll help you with your agendas and all that stuff's in one place. There's no all your documents, and it saves you a lot of paper printing, right? I mean, that's a huge investment. We had a customer where we helped them distribute 7,000 digital documents. And if they would have printed those documents, right, that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So they saved a ton of money. And for me, that's a huge eye opener that, if you have a mobile app and you can save that money, it basically pays for itself right off the top. Right. But it doesn't mean it solves all of their problems, right? They found a way to put it in the budget, but that doesn't mean it achieves the event's objectives. And there's still a lot of learning in that regard, I think, for people.
Very interesting. Very interesting. No, it's great. So where do you see this going in the future? How is Socialpoint? You're still Interactive Meeting Technology is the name of your company, correct?
Yeah.
And then Socialpoint is your
it's a product.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it like this, Mike, that when we started, we wanted to be consultants and advisors, and you still hear a lot of consulting and advising in what I say, right? Mm-hmm. But what we found is that the vendors didn't have the solutions. So we started to make digital solutions. Then we found that, hey, now there's a lot of people that come to the table with ideas, right? Remember, I started the conversation with 6 years ago, people were like, you're crazy, get on the crazy train and get out of my office, right? And then there was a evolution of help us. Now there's an evolution of we've got ideas. We need somebody to come in and help us execute those, right? And sometimes people have a willingness to pay a lot of money, but they don't have the ability to pay a lot of money. And so that's also one thing I like about our platform. It's designed to basically so that you can democratize, so you can get it out to people. But here's what I kind of see in the industry going forward. So that's kind of an evolution, right? The people are evolving to where they want to be the hero and have come up with the plan and the idea and the technology. But we also just did a big research report. We've done about 5 different projects for Meetings Professionals International. We've done different research or whatever. We did a research for them in PSAV on, it's called the Event Technology Ecosystem. And it's something, if you Google Event Technology Ecosystem, you can download the report. You can find it out there, or PSAV has it on their website and you can get it. I totally recommend you getting it. It's a really cool report. But here's some of the data we found. We were looking at how people make decisions, right? There's so much technology, so many choices that's everywhere. We looked at how people make decisions and how do you plan for this technology, right? How do you budget for it? Are you strategic about the choices that you make? And what was interesting to us is that 52% of the people, and I think I have the stats memorized, I might be a little off, but you read the research report, you'll see the details. But about 52% of the people said they expect their budgets to go up, to stay the same or go up, right? Or actually it's a bigger number. So those people, 52% go up. So some number like that. Anyway, but then we asked and said, how many of you feel like you have the resources on your team currently to support bringing on new technology? And 44% of the people said, we don't have any resources to help us, right? The same people that said we're putting more money towards it, they also are saying that they don't have the resources to do it. And so when you're in a world like that, that creates some challenges for folks, right? And it makes it hard for them to try to go out and execute. Another thing we found is that a lot of these folks are still they're still making decisions on an event by event basis. And so that's important because here's the deal. For the history of the world, when technology adoption has accelerated, there have been standards and processes in place that allow that. And here's a quick example. Remember when VHS and Betamax, right? There were 2 different kinds of technologies, and Betamax was technically the best one. If you're like really get down to it, is the better thing. But right. VHS won, and it became the standard. And remember what happened. Once it became the standard, the costs of VHS players went down. The amount of content that was created on those went up. And so that had a huge effect. And what happened then is your process changed in how you bought it, how you used the tools. You didn't have to ask, do I need this or that? Well, I look at, and this goes on, DVDs, CDs, all those kinds of things. Once there became a standard, it accelerated. And I think DVD players, I think this is correct, they were the fastest adopted technology ever.
Really?
Because they got out of the way really quickly on what the standard was going to be before they had too much of a fight. And then it took off like a rocket ship. And so batteries, there's all these kinds of things, batteries, whatever, they all have this curve. Well, I believe the same curve will exist in the events world too, right? But it will start to stabilize around when we start to have standards on things, right? And so those standards will allow people to operate efficiently. If you think about it, I said people, process, and technology. Someone has to set it up. They have to learn, does this software do this? Does it do that? What doesn't it do? They have all these questions. Well, the more they get used to that, the more they understand this is how we deploy things. It deploys exactly this way. This is how we log in. This is how we manage the content that's in there. This is how we do our things. That's going to accelerate. And one of the things we're doing with our platform is by having these different experiences in there, this way they set up, the way they manage, and the way they deploy is all the same. So whether they do it at this event or that event or this one, they want different kinds of experiences, the way they set all that up, plan for it, deploy it is the same. And so we believe having common processes like that allows our clients to be efficient. If they want. A lot of them just say, we do that for us, and then that makes it efficient as well. But, there's folks that our software is set up so that they can do it themselves. And so that's really important. It's empowering for some folks, I think.
No, it sounds great. It sounds really great. So what are you struggling with right now? Are you struggling with anything with well, you could say something personal or professional. What are you struggling with?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, the challenge that we face is that I have so many ideas, right? And I see so many different ways to do things. And what we need to do here is we can't attack all those ideas at once. We need to take them on in a case-by-case basis. And so So that's a personal struggle for me, because I always want to let's do this or let's do that. But what we've decided to do, and where we're trying to attack this, is that by putting these pieces in the platform, it's cool to have a whole bunch of ideas, but we make sure that they become tools that people can go ahead and deploy and go through those 3 steps smoothly and easily. And so that makes things super helpful, right, for us. So where we look forward, so as I look forward, what I feel is going to be that next wave of things on our plate isn't going to be so much about the technology that we've created, but about how we teach people how to design and build audience engagement experiences. Right? We have some methodologies, we have some experiences that we use. I think it complements the stuff that they're doing with the event canvas, right? So that's at a top level. I'm down here with that. Once you've decided on those strategies, right, we're doing stuff down here at the very tactical, put it in my event stuff. And I kind of view it as, our piece of that, especially with people coming with plans. If I can teach them how to think about the design of their audience engagement experiences and give them some simple tools to do that, which we have them, it's just more about teaching people how to use them and getting them experience using them. And then our software supports that will allow them to continue to be creative, continue to evolve, and continue to take our tools and use them in unique and different ways. Like the private social media hubs we use, it's some of our simple tools, but what's really cool is that we can combine them in different ways and say, we want it to be on a screen, or we want to take a game and build a game show in a big general session room. Like if you've probably done those before in the past, right? So, we put those on iPads, the tables or teams, blah, blah, blah. But also you can have very different kinds of games for street teams, or for, it's called the challenge bar. So for the bar that we like to set up in churches anyway, but it's teaching people how to do that. And that's what I think the opportunity exists. There's a lot of opportunity there in education.
Was it difficult for you to build software? I mean, seriously, that seems like such a difficult task, and you have so many different things that you do. How has that process been for you?
Well, so one of the things we forgot to talk about. So I started my career at Ford Motor Company in business reengineering and in technology, and so I actually have a lot of background in that. And so for me, it was more like remembering what to do, remembering how to do it. Huh. And so then once we started in earnest, so the platform that we built, right, we had all these little tools, and that now turning them into a platform, that was a major investment and a major effort, I would say, right? And I put a lot of attention to it, and looking at a lot of details and code and whatever. But one of the things that I believe we did, because of my different experiences, I believe we actually did it for less than if we would have, not had the kind of experience, because I was able to kind of bring the experience in. How do we do some of this stuff, and combine it with some new engineers we brought on that have more, have different kinds of experiences. But but we didn't have to iterate like some other folks do, right? Where they do it wrong or whatever. There were some, because we were working from a methodology first, being able to put our tool into that, I believe that has helped us a lot, right? In doing that, that's been great, but maybe that, maybe I could also be out there teaching people more, right, at the same time. But I think we were able to get through a process very quickly because of that. So I didn't see it as, it was hard work, right? It's hard work,
Yeah.
but also we, I know so much about audience engagement that I also know how things should work, and that just saved us a ton of time. Our administration tools for our base audience engagement module, our audience response module, is really super cool because you can sit with one control panel. The event tech in the room can sit with one control panel, and he can manage multiple polls, discussions, speaker Q&A, and a couple of other things, all trivia games, all right there on one screen. And that makes it really easy for those techs to deploy these experiences in the room. And I think that's a pretty important element. It's not just, a lot of guys are out there, they're like, yeah, we got this, we got that. And, the support system for the tech kind of sucks. So
Yeah.
we try to make it smooth for everybody.
Huh, very cool. Okay. So, I want to ask you a couple questions about you, just because it's kind of neat when you talk to somebody who's successful to kind of figure out, maybe you can emulate some of the things that they do to make yourself a better person, Sam. So, take me through a typical day. Do you have any kind of morning rituals, food, exercise, regular reading you do? Take me through a little. What does Sam do? What makes Sam successful in the morning?
Yeah, well, I have youngsters, so that helps out a lot. And my kids are in what people are telling me is the golden years. They're 4 and 8. So we're done with diapers, we're done with bedwetting, and we're into like building toboggan runs with curves and stuff like that, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. We just watched we've watched this Star Wars sixology, or whatever you call it, right? The whole all 6 of them over the holidays, and we've just watched some of them another time. And I have a projector for work that I had to buy, a little small deal, right? It's a tiny thing, but it's a short throw, and it projects in a 7 by 11, I think it's somewhere in that rate. It's a 16 by 9 HD, but it's about 7 feet by 11 feet. And I've taken all my wife's art off the wall. And so we were watching when she's not home, we were watching Star Wars like that and sports games. And she was around yesterday, and she's like, what are you guys doing? We're like, we're watching Star Wars. Anyway, so it's a lot of fun. So what does that mean for my routine? I think the things I look at in our business every day is we're always looking at sales opportunities and where those are coming from. We're always looking at cash flow as an entrepreneur. That's a really important element. We're looking at and we're also looking at the experience. We just had 6 projects that wrapped up last week, so we had a review of those this morning. We do that on Monday mornings to see where those are, right? And they're all very different, and so we want to see how those are successful, right? And because customer succeeding at audience engagement is what we're about, right? And the tools and technology, that's just how we get paid to do our job. But what we really care about is getting them to succeed. So we'll do a lot of that. I'm a huge basketball fan. So I read an incredible amount about Indiana basketball, and I watch college basketball every day. So there's something I'm watching somewhere or reading about. But for myself in my professional career, I'm a voracious reader. I will read all kinds of different books to develop my skills, right? If I don't understand what this is, what's going on with some technology or with some sales process or whatever it is, I don't know what it is. There's so many different things, and I'll read books about that. I read books on how to be a better leader. You can always be better at those things, but I would say that I educate myself a lot in terms of developing my own personal skills as a father, but also as a leader, and try to make sure that I'm making the right kind of decisions for our company. And some of that I think also allows us to do some stuff more efficiently than we have in the past. So, or as compared to other companies, right? I think our our ability to operate and execute, we're just able to do stuff with much less overhead than other people have. And so that's a good thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So does that help? Was that describe?
Yeah. What do you have any favorite books that you gift to other people? Is there a book that you give away to other people?
Yeah. And hold on for a second. I'm going to take my headset off and I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. It just happens to be here on my shelf. We have several of them, but one of the books that we like to gift to people is called Terms of Engagement. It's by a guy named Richard Axelrod. You won't find Dick Axelrod or any of this in the meetings industry stuff. He comes out of org development, but he has basically he's developed a book, and he's got some new ones out there, but they're about how do you transform your organization, right? And how do you use meetings to do that? And so this is a book we'd like to give away. Another book that I think is interesting. It's not here, and I'm forgetting the title of it, but one of the very first line of the book says, "They don't teach you this at Harvard Business School." Right? and the book is about how to design meetings to transform your organization. And while this is the Dick Axelrod approach is one, and I think it's a very important tool. What this other book did for me, a lot of people like to have those meetings where they have what are your ideas? Let's do brainstorming and figure out what our ideas are. Let's evaluate the ideas and let's make a decision. They try to take all three of those processes. Oh, the book is called Moments of Impact. And so people like to put all that in one meeting, in a 2-hour meeting or whatever. And what this said is that for organizational change, it shouldn't be a 1 minute or a 1 hour meeting or a 2 hour meeting or a one-time thing. People need to process. We need to get people on the same page about what the problems are that we should be facing. You need to let them go process that and think about it. Then have another one to brainstorm ideas, right? And then another one to select some alternatives and then make a decision. And so it's just kind of a series of 3 meetings instead. And what it really talks about is that, meetings in organizations are a very important skill, and planning those, right? So if you think about every sales leader has to have a national sales meeting, they have customer meetings, they have all these things, and being effective with those is a skill they don't teach you, but yet, leadership meetings, all those things are things people do, but as stakeholders and owners of these things, right, there's very little training. And so they kind of have to figure out from what did I learn from the other guy? They might hire a production company or an agency if they can afford it. We'll give them some advice and coaching. But anyway, so I think those 2 books are pretty cool. If for any entrepreneurs out there, there's a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And that is a book that you need to read because as any entrepreneur knows, there's a day when you have to make payroll. And so that was an important day. And you have to make some decisions. And so this book deals with, you got tough decisions. You got 2 bad choices. You got to make one. What do you do? How do you make it? What do you? And so I think that's a really good book for entrepreneurs. Another book that I like a lot right now is called Predictable Revenue. It's by Aaron Ross. And I think that's an interesting book, and there's some principles in there that we're trying to implement. And I know the guys at Loopd, LOOPD, right? That new technology. They're using some of the principles in there as well. And to me, that's an interesting book because what it does is it starts to put processes around how you might do some of the sales and marketing management and at an entrepreneur level where you don't have all the resources that, lots of companies have.
Yeah, I have that book around here too. I was going to read that. That's funny that you said that.
Predictable Revenue. Yeah.
It's somewhere around here.
And so I'll read, sometimes I'll read a book or 2 in the weekend, really just trying to develop my skills or be smarter and be a better leader. But those are some
Very
books
cool.
that you can help lots of different kinds of folks. One person shouldn't go read all of those. They'll be like, whoa, what's he talking? Why did he send me to these books? But if you're entrepreneurial, go read the last 2. If you're an event leader and an event manager, those first 2 books are fantastic for you.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, do you listen to any music when you work?
Not during work.
No.
I do, but I do listen to music, and I'm an iTunes guy, right? So
you a podcast, Spotify kind of a person, or are you?
I'm not. I'm kind of lame in that way, in that I'm Mr. iTunes. So I'll listen to. We have a radio channel here called The Current, and it's an independent station and they play stuff that you just can't play on the Clear Channel stations. And so I'll learn a lot from them. But
That's on iTunes, or that's a...
No. That's on the regular radio. But then what it does is it influences what I download. So I listen to a lot of Mumford and Sons, if you know them. Fits in the Tantrums, OAR, Echo Smith. I don't know. I've downloaded. I didn't know David Bowie was so fancy. Like, he had such cool songs until just obviously he passed away, which is unfortunate. But now I've discovered his music, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So I've been downloading David Bowie recently.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have favorite documentary or movie? I guess Star Wars is your thing right now.
Yeah. But you know what? If I had to kind of get down to it, so until 2 years ago, Frozen is the movie that I've seen the most now. I have a daughter, and so we've watched that a bazillion times, and it's now the number one movie I've seen in my entire life, the most times. And it's actually a really good movie because I sit down and watch it. But that's not what you're talking about. The movie that I would say, there's 3 movies that I think are the best ever, and this is my opinion. So other people don't have to agree. The first one is Heat, the movie Heat with Pacino and De Niro, right? Val Kilmer. Right, I think that's one of the greatest movies. Just an awesome movie. And Die Hard, the original Die Hard. Watch that, anytime, any place. So, but that's as I get older, not so much, but still Heat's definitely there. But here's the movie I watch every year, once or twice, and I've been doing it for a long time. Is Hoosiers. And I make my kids watch it too. And so a guy like me that watches as much basketball as I do in college basketball, the Hoosiers story. And I went to Indiana University, right? So I'm from that part of the country. That is definitely just a fantastic movie, and one it never gets old, right? When Barbara Hershey's, hassling Gene Hackman about, why is he here, washed up guy, whatever, and the townsfolk want to run him out of town and all that good stuff. I mean, I just love that stuff. And you know what? His team, yeah, exactly. And his teams, have a lot of Golden State Warriors qualities, right? There's probably when they drafted Steph Curry, those people were like, what are they doing, right? And now they're vindicated, right? They did it the right way, right? And so even Draymond Green, I feel like there was people who were like, that's not. There was probably 5 Kentucky guys, and they were like, why did you get that? So anyway, but and the Warriors, they're a 5-pass team, so there's so many similarities there just about good basketball. And so anyway, does that help?
Yeah, that's great. So I have a few more questions.
Yep.
What's the best advice you ever received?
I think the best. There's lots of good advice that I've received. I would say something that I did that's some of the advice I got that's really cool. Happened when I was 19. And it's not so much it was the best advice, but this is a good story. It's one I never forget. Anyway, my uncle used to run the catering business that catered to Soldier Field, and the Grateful Dead was in town. And I was supposed to go and meet up. He had said, come on, and I'll bring you into the luxury suites and whatever, and you can hang out or whatever. And I was like, that's cool. But I instead went with my friends, and we did something else. And we went to the concert, right? Or we went to the parking lot of the concert, and we couldn't afford tickets. We were in college or whatever, so we had a good time and whatever. Anyway, the next day I went to see him. He's like, "Why didn't you come?" And I was like, "Well, whatever." With my friends did, and he goes, "You're so crazy." And he gave me this green card. It was a parking pass to park right next to the building. So I had this parking pass for you because I knew you wouldn't be able to park anywhere because it's so crazy here. So I had this parking pass. You could have parked right next to the building. And you could have come up into the luxury suites were there. And my friend, whoever, I forgot the guy's name, because my friend had an extra ticket to the Bulls game. The Bulls were playing a playoffs game that night. And he goes, I had an extra ticket to the Bulls game, and it was in the fifth row, half court or something. You could have went. And I was just like, whoa. So I still have that that card, and I keep it. And I keep it mostly because it's about, opportunities, and they don't always come around, but you never know what you have an opportunity to miss. And so you need to make sure you take advantage of the opportunities when they're there.
That's good.
And while it's important to be independent in those things, you also need to take advantage of the opportunities that come along. So to me, that's a really has been really helpful. And I kind of keep it in the back of my mind. I think it's a good story. But the other piece of advice I have, and this is for anyone out there that it's like to go camping, but maybe you're not a good camper. So my wife and I once went into the North Woods of Michigan, up into the Upper Peninsula to go camping. We're going to go on a camping tour and go to all these places. Anyway, for some reason, our Coleman gas stove wasn't working, and we had fire problems, wet wood, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, we went into a Walmart one day to kind of upgrade our materials. So we got a gas grill. That's not a gas grill. It's a propane grill, right? We just had the propane and you flip it on. So we just threw away all the stuff I grew up with. But I spent the best 59 cents I've ever spent in my life by buying fire starter logs, right? Not the Duraflame log itself, but the little starter. Mm-hmm. This little thing for 59 cents, and it's probably like 30 cents now, or what? I don't know how much it is, but buy them if you ever go camping. All you need to do is put that thing on there, light a match on it a little bit. The next thing you know, you have a roaring fire. That was still in my life today. And like I lived on Lake Geneva in Europe, and I've been skiing in the Alps, all these kind of things. I've been to the pyramids in Egypt and whatever. That is still one of the best decisions, the best investments I've ever made. 59 cents. Anyway, so
wow.
So that's
really
kind of a cool thing. But also that's also about, such a little thing can have a huge impact, and doesn't mean that things have to cost a lot, right? And so I think that's also important.
That's pretty funny. So good camping tip. So what's working for you right now? Do you have like a new app, a vitamin, an exercise program, work hack, time saver? Do you have something like that you're using that you really like?
Sidekick. Do you guys know Sidekick?
What's Sidekick?
So there's two. So HubSpot, if you've ever heard of HubSpot, mm-hmm. They have a tool called Sidekick, and I just recently got it. What I like about it is as I send out emails, it tracks them, but also as I go onto a website, it will tell me about that organization, and it has extra data about it. So while I'm it's a plugin for Chrome, and it tells me, oh, they're this kind of company, they're doing this or whatever. Also, it will tell me, do I have these people in my LinkedIn or whatever, HubSpot or whatever, my mailbox or whatever that are from there, and do I know them or whatever? And so that's kind of a cool tool. And we've just recently, we're going to do more with that. They have that's the free version, which I think is worth getting, but then they have some other paid versions. We use Salesforce here, but they have some other marketing and what I call sales automation tools if you upgrade. But mm-hmm. I find that little piece of information, this little free tool, super valuable. And, it's nice because you don't know, like, you send emails out and I'm worried that customers aren't getting them, right? That are we getting in a junk folder or whatever? And I'm not talking about prospects. I'm talking about the customers, right? Mm-hmm. You just never know. And so this is a nice little tool that helps me know, okay, they got it. If they don't respond, it's okay, but at least they got it, right? And so it makes me just have a little bit of peace of mind like that. But, there's other value to it for other reasons. So anyway, it's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Sidekick.
Very cool. What's your favorite industry event you attend, and what about it is so compelling? Do you attend any industry events these days?
I don't. I used to go to all of them. For me, so that was my choice. I think if a person were going to go, I would highly recommend they go to PCMA, Convening Leaders, which took place a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I've always found that was a very interesting one. I'm an MPI guy, so we like to. We're always proud of supporting MPI events. Mm-hmm. So I think those are always good events and fun events. My an event that I haven't been to in a few years, but I've always found very valuable is Event Marketer. And the reason I find it valuable is in our space as people that are innovators and people that are always looking to find new things. Like, we're trying to democratize stuff. So we're happy when people go try crazy things and we're like, oh, that's a good idea. Then we'll try to figure out how to democratize that, right? How to make it affordable for everybody, right? Or is that a possibility? Or what are the nuggets in there that we can learn from? And I always find that those folks, while I believe they're spending a fortune on what they're doing, there are opportunities that they're teaching other people about, right? And I think it's a great place to generate ideas and learn new things. You just get nuggets of inspiration. So
very cool.
They're always on the cutting edge at Event Marketer.
So what's the coolest new trend you've seen or excited about?
In what, I don't know. I'll tell you, I guess the number one trend that I'm excited about is I don't know if you know this, but the FCC cut back or started fining companies for blocking Wi-Fi in venues.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so, and that started in October of 2014. We saw immediate impact in October of 2015 because we could recommend to our clients they didn't have to buy the venue Wi-Fi, that they could bring hotspots for things like, in their trade show booth, right? Okay, I mentioned earlier we do trade show booth stuff, so that saves them a ton of cash, right? So they went to having a $50 a month hotspot from paying a venue $1,500 to $2,000 for stuff, right? And to me that was huge. But then what I think's been reinforcing in all of this is that the FCC didn't just fine Marriott in October of 2014. They keep fining everybody else who they find are continuing to violate this. And I think the most recent target was like the Baltimore Convention Center and whoever their partners are. But it's been 3 or 4 times. They've had big lawsuits, big challenges, just from people that are still basically they didn't believe that they were going to fine them. And to me, what that's done is that because they've said you don't control the airwaves, that has opened up the door for companies like us and anyone else to be able to bring in interactive technologies and put them on lots of different kinds of screens and do it in a way that's affordable. Because when you have to have people go on site and you have to pay for Wi-Fi and you have to pay for whatever else, right? Travel. All of those costs are just costs of entry to get in the game, right? It doesn't matter how creative you are, how innovative the people are. If those costs become 50 to 60 or 70% of what your total expenditure is, you can't. It's hard for you to be successful. So these things have brought down the cost of some of those logistics quite a bit, which now then people can do more fun things and do more stuff, because it's not that they had more money. You're not giving them more money. You're just saying, hey, your dollars go further. And I think that's really important. So
very cool.
That's my favorite trend right now. Like, forget all this Li-Fi and, beacons and whatever.
Virtual reality and
good old the Wi-Fi, man.
All right. This is the last question. If you could talk to the high school senior Sam, what would you tell yourself?
I think what I would tell him is that don't miss that Grateful Dead concert when your uncle gives you a pass. But I think I would tell him to keep doing what you're doing, right? Part of my career to get me to where I am is evolution of going to Indiana University, going to work at Ford Motor Company for 7 years, working at 3M, living in Europe twice, being a dad and being a husband, right? And so all of really, when I look back on the last 20 years of my career, or my working career, which is now 20 years old, I look at that and I say, all of these steps brought me to where I am, but also that's about an evolution, right? And as I always kept in mind, and when I started at that time, I had a vision for what I wanted to be and how I wanted to get there. And it's a sailboat path, right? You go left and then you got to go right a little bit, but it's working, and I think that's a really cool thing. And so I would tell myself to stay the course and keep doing. I might advise myself to do a little better on a couple of exams or some things like that. But let's talk about. That at the end of the day, that's minor. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks, Sam. I appreciate you talking to me. Where can people find you? Where can they find more about Socialpoint, and where they can find out if they wanted to chat with you?
Yeah. So I'd recommend they go to our website, socialpoint.io. So www.socialpoint.io. And they can also send me an email at samueljsmith@interactivemeetingtechnology.com. That's always useful. And then if they go to the Socialpoint website, or we have an interactive meeting technology website, if they go there, they can find my phone number and call me. Right. And for anyone who wants to talk about audience engagement or interactive technology, I am more than happy to talk to them about that stuff, because helping people succeed is our number one goal. And whether that's something that they use our technology to do, or they just want to validate their own ideas, I'm happy to do that. So
very cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. And I look forward to chatting with you again.
Hey, thanks, Mike. It was nice to see you again and hear your voice. And go Warriors, man.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Cool.
Okay, that was fun. Thank you for listening all the way through the podcast. And I wanted to thank our sponsors, IMEX America and thepodcastguys.com, for your event podcasting. And if you hadn't thought of it yet, that's actually us. We are now doing podcasting for events. So it's really fun. We're calling it thepodcastguys.com is the URL that we had. So we're using that. And it sends you to the Grass Shack Events and Media site. But we've got a whole thing set up. Some things you should know about podcasting. Americans listen to approximately 21,117,000 hours of podcast audio every day. 1/3 of Americans 12 years or older have now say that they have listened to at least one podcast. Podcasting is on the rise. Monthly audio podcast consumption grew from approximately 39 million monthly users in 2014 to approximately 46 million in 2015. So it's something you should think about for your event. You have a lot of content there that you can use year-round to keep your attendees and your members, if you're an association, engaged, educated, and entertained. So it's something to think about. So head over to the podcast guys, or you can always call me or tweet me or send up a smoke signal, and I'll come a run in and we can talk about podcasting. But we have a couple of clients now that are really enjoying it. So check it out. And again, thanks for listening, and I appreciate you spending the time with me.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.